他说，这是一次历史性的访问，他为中俄关系提升为战略伙伴关系感到骄傲。他祝贺中国所取得的成就，并期待两国友好合作更上一层楼。高端访谈专访格鲁吉亚总理伊拉克利·加里巴什维利，敬请收看。
关注国际焦点，洞察世界风云。大家好，欢迎来到本期的高端访谈，我是邹韵。有朋自远方来，今天我们要对话的这位朋友，就是在成都大运会期间访华的格鲁吉亚总理加里巴什维利。格鲁吉亚虽然是一个年轻的国家，但却有着悠久的历史和灿烂的文化。它是世界葡萄酒的发源地，也是古代丝绸之路的必经之地。建交31年后的今天，两国共同宣布建立战略伙伴关系。升级后的双边关系将带来哪些新的机遇？“一带一路”倡议和中间走廊计划又将展开怎样的合作新篇章呢？今天我们一起在对话中寻找答案。
Prime-Minister Garibashvili, thank you so much for joining us on Leaders Talk.
Thank you for inviting me for this interview.
Well, you were in Chengdu before coming to Beijing, and you not only participated in the grand opening of the World University Games, but also went to see the giant panda and got immersive experiences in some intangible cultural heritage here in China. And a video clip has shown that you're particularly interested in the shoe embroidery, which is one of the oldest embroideries here in China. So tell us a little bit more about your China trip so far and some of the standout moments for you.
For me, this is a historic visit. First of all, I want to express my sincere gratitude to President Xi, who invited me and my delegation to visit China. We have very concrete results, and this visit has been a very successful one. But I want to share with you my emotions about Chengdu, about the opening ceremony for the World University Games. Mm-hmm. This was fantastic opening ceremony. Spectacular, and I want to congratulate you and the Chinese government for organizing this at the highest level. Mm-hmm. I think I would not exaggerate to say that this opening would be a great opening for any Olympic Games. So once again, this was really impressive, and I want to congratulate you again. As for the panda, of course, I was privileged to have an opportunity to see baby pandas, little pandas. So,
aren't they lovely, huh?
This is really, really a great place to visit.
You just mentioned about the exceptional performances of the opening ceremony. Well, during that spectacular event, when Team Georgia went into the studio, you stood up, you smiled, and you waved to them.
Well, I think there were many things, a lot of things, which really surprised us. Several scenes which were fantastic. I think everyone was excited to see this great show. And of course, I was especially proud to see the Georgian students and athletes and participants. So this was a great experience for me.
The highlight of your China trip this time is meeting with Chinese president. During the meeting, President Xi talked about elevating the bilateral relations to strategic partnership and taking this as a new starting point. So what do you make of the meeting, and what are some of the new opportunities do you think this upgraded bilateral relations will bring?
Well, we had a very successful and fruitful meeting with President Xi. Mm-hmm. This was my first meeting with President Xi. I want to express once again my sincere gratitude to him for inviting me to visit China. And of course, I was particularly pleased by the decision that we together made to elevate the existing relationship to the next level. Mm-hmm. So Georgia and China became strategic partners, which I believe will be a very important decision, and both countries will benefit from this very important, I would say, historic decision. Mm-hmm. So I'm really satisfied. I'm really pleased that we made this happen. So today, I'm really proud to say that China and Georgia now are strategic partners. So once again, I have to say that this is a historic visit. So I'm going back home with some concrete, tangible results.
Just now you mentioned your meeting with President Xi. So what kind of leader he is to you, especially given that the Chinese ambassador to Georgia gave you his book as a gift? So what's your take on his vision and governance?
Without exaggeration, President Xi is truly an exemplary leader, visionary, wise man, who did great things for his great nation and who is doing very ambitious projects and reforms for your country and for your nation. And I think he's an inspirational leader. You mentioned, for example, the governance book. And
right. Did you get a chance to read it a
absolutely.
little bit?
And I have to say that we, during our bilateral meeting, we also spoke about the potential sharing of experience of governance, of other initiatives that comes from China, from President Xi. So I'm very interested in strengthening our bilateral ties, relationship and friendship and trust with the Chinese government and with President Xi.
During your meeting with President Xi, you have also expressed Georgia's support and active participation in the Belt and Road Initiative, in the Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, as well as the Global Civilization Initiative proposed by President Xi. So how do you see the significance of those initiatives in addressing global challenges as well as upholding the international system?
Well, first of all, I have to tell you very honestly that we fully support President Xi's initiatives. And I'll tell you why. All his initiatives are pro-peace, pro-progress, modernization, prosperity, and pro-development. And I think this is great. This is what the world needs today. The world today needs peace, stability, and prosperity for all the nations, right? For the entire planet.
Right.
President Xi's initiatives are really outstanding, I would say. And I think these initiatives will inspire many nations, many countries. So I fully support President Xi's initiatives. You mentioned the Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, Global Civilization Initiative. And I also want to inform you that we were probably one of the first countries which joined the Belt and Road Initiative.
Indeed.
Of President Xi Jinping. So just for your information, in 2015, to echo the decision and to demonstrate our support, I founded Tbilisi Silk Road Forum. As you know, Georgia was part of the ancient Silk Road. So therefore, I think for us, for Georgia, this is a great opportunity. These are great initiatives, great ideas, creative ideas, related only to peace, prosperity, stability. More and more countries, I believe, will get inspired and will follow these initiatives.
格鲁吉亚位于欧亚大陆腹地外高加索的中西部，是古代丝绸之路的重要驿站。它西临黑海，北接俄罗斯，东南部和南部分别与阿塞拜疆和亚美尼亚相邻，西南与土耳其接壤。其境内2/3是山地，是个名副其实的山地国家。格鲁吉亚的国土面积近7万平方公里，人口不到400万。身处欧亚大陆的交界处，格鲁吉亚自古就是连接亚洲和欧洲的重要门户之一。
Mr. Prime Minister, as you just mentioned, Georgia is a very important part of the ancient Silk Road and also one of the first countries to express their support for China's Belt and Road Initiative. And now the cooperation between both countries under this initiative is thriving in infrastructure, in energy, in agriculture, etc. So how do you see the high-quality development under this initiative, especially given the unique geographic location of Georgia in connecting the East and West, as well as the country's national strategy of positioning itself as a major logistic and transportation hub?
Thanks for this question. First of all, Georgia has a unique location, unique geostrategic location, which connects East with the West, and this is the shortest route. In other words, for example, it takes only 15 days, roughly 15 days, to transport goods from China to Europe, compared to other means of transportation, for example, the marine by the sea, right? The transportation takes only, I think, 45 days or so. So there's a big difference. So therefore, there's a big potential to develop the so-called middle corridor. Middle corridor, which consists of several countries: Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey as well. So I'll tell you from our perspective, Georgia signed a clear roadmap with Kazakhstan and also with Azerbaijan. We have full understanding how to increase the capacity of this corridor, increase the capacity of railroads or ports and other infrastructure. In Georgia, we are doing lots of big infrastructure projects, such as the East and West Highway. We're now going to start a new port project.
It's the Deep Sea Port
Deep Sea Port, Irakli Port. And the capacity of this port, after implementing all 9 phases, will be about 100 million tons. Of course, we're doing the modernization of railway, which, by the way, is being done by the Chinese company.
Yes.
And also East-West Highway is also being built by the Chinese companies. And I have to say how efficient they are. And also their prices are also competitive. And we're quite satisfied. We're satisfied with the work that they do in Georgia.
Right, but that will need like a closer and more intensified synergy between the Belt and Road Initiative as well as the vision of the Middle Corridor, right?
Absolutely. Georgia naturally has a capacity, has a potential to position itself as a hub, transport logistics hub or energy hub or aviation hub. So we also want to start construction of a new airport facility, a world-class international airport, where companies, even Chinese companies, aviation companies, could have cargo terminals and other opportunities. So I believe this is, again, is part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Middle corridor is very important. In the near future, this will become a very interesting alternative route. We have to be creative. We have to act fast, and of course, we need full coordination and full openness and transparency.
Well, in May of this year, you mentioned in a speech that Georgia had, quote unquote here, very good relations with China, highlighting the free trade agreement, which came into effect in 2018. And by the way, that is the very first FTA between China and a Eurasian country, right? And the trade volume between those two countries has increased significantly by over 400 times in the past around 3 decades or so, which is, significant. So what are some of the new areas of cooperation do you see even greater potential going forward?
Thank you for raising this topic. Just for your information, during my first premiership, I was the one who started the first negotiations regarding the free trade agreement with China.
Yes.
Sign, as you said, the first free trade agreement in Eurasia.
Right.
So we were privileged and lucky enough to have this kind of agreement. And as you said, the result is very tangible. Trade turnover grew by 400%, as you mentioned.
It's not 4 or 40, it's 400.
It's 400%.
Right.
And China very rapidly became the 3rd largest trading partner for Georgia.
Exactly.
And today, even since you asked about the potential, what else we could achieve, I think easily, if we continue to export more goods, more products, more quality products on China's market and vice versa, I think China can easily become #1 trading partner for Georgia. So there's a big potential. I believe in this potential, and that's why I'm so passionate about these and other opportunities that exist and that comes from this free trade agreement. China, of course, is very important for us. So therefore, we fully support the increase of trade, economic relations with China. I encouraged Georgian businesses to do more business with China, with Chinese companies, to export more goods, for example, wine and other goods. So there's a big potential in that.
That's exactly the question that I want to ask next, because Mr. Prime Minister, here in China, if you ask people about what they've heard of Georgia, many people will say wine, because Georgia is known as the homeland to wine, and also those very special, huge clay pot, right? Which
It's
is called
Quevri.
And also now the enhanced ties between the two countries is not only made wine, but also an increasing number of products have made their way to the vast Chinese market. And during your meeting with President Xi, he also talked about that China welcomes the expanding export of more high-quality products to China. So what do you expect to bring to the Chinese market here?
Well, thank you very much for your comments about Georgian wine and for promoting Georgian wine. Georgia indeed is a birthplace of wine. So therefore, we're proud of it. And of course, we have to promote Georgian wine in China. That's why we're planning to, we're considering opening tourism centers in different cities in China and promote more actively Georgian wine and about, simply Georgia, because this could be also interesting for Chinese tourists as well. And Georgia is a beautiful country. It's a small country.
It's known as the God's backyard garden. By the way, so can you tell us a little bit about what captivating scenery, what are some of the other charms that await for the Chinese visitors if they get a chance to explore the country?
I know that you have never been to Georgia.
No.
Not yet, but
Not
I'm sure
yet.
you will visit. Kind invitation. So Georgia is a small country, but a unique country, I would say, with unique culture, with unique people, with hospitality and wine and nature. Fantastic. We have desert, we have subtropical zone, we have mountains, we have Black Sea, as you know, we have rivers, 26,000 rivers and lakes. And so therefore, without exaggeration, Georgia is a very unique place to visit. And we have many tourists. Before COVID, we had 9.3 million tourists.
And it is one of the fastest growing industry in your country.
And the population of Georgia is only 3.7 million. So therefore, there's a big potential in Georgia in that respect. So we want to see more Chinese citizens visiting us, more groups, touristic agencies to open their offices and promote Georgia, and vice versa. Of course, more Georgians should visit China, your beautiful, unique country. So, but the wine, yes, wine is our, let's say, pride, and we're proud of the fact that Georgia gave the world wine.
And also, besides wine, what are some of the other high-quality products do you want to bring here to the vast Chinese market?
Well, there are many things we can export to China. Agricultural goods. We produce high-quality agricultural goods. Other goods as well, gold, copper, and other. I mean, there's lots of opportunities right now. So I think more businesses will get interested in these opportunities, and I'm sure this new era, which now started in our relationship, in our bilateral relationship, will also encourage more businesses to do business in China and in Georgia.
Well, during your meeting with President Xi, the topic of encouraging more Chinese companies in Georgia is also high on the agenda. So what would be some of the advice that you would give to those Chinese companies who are willing to expand their footprint in the country?
Today we had a business forum. I brought here Georgian businesses, Georgian companies. And when it comes to Chinese companies, I made a big presentation about Georgia, about the country, according to World Bank's ease of doing business criteria, we are number 7 in the world. We are the 3rd least tax burden countries in the world. We have very low taxes, low bureaucracy, low corruption, transparency. We're number 1 in terms of budget transparency, for example. We're one of the most freest economies in the world. We are 15th most, freest economy in the world. So I think it all gives more attractiveness to Georgia. I said that earlier. I said that Georgia has free trade agreements with more than 2.3 billion consumers market. With the European Union, for example, we have zero tax regime, free trade agreement with the European Union. So, for example, hypothetically speaking, if Chinese companies, manufacturing companies, or other companies would, for example, build their branches or factories or assembly lines, they could easily, without any tax barriers, export their goods to the European market. without any tax. This is one thing. Other things I already mentioned about other attractiveness which Georgia has. It's a very pro-business government. My government is very pro-business, very open. So we provide maximum support and maximum comfort for Chinese companies.
Well, Mr. Prime Minister, why not take maybe a sip of tea so that we can continue?
Yeah, okay.
So, speaking of tea, there's this very special tea in Georgia drank by local people. It's called Liu tea, which is named after a Chinese tea expert who brought tea to the region in the 19th century. And I think that has shown this an ancient cultural link between the two countries. And also during your visit this time, and a very important MOU was signed on the Chinese language education in the secondary and primary school in Georgia. So what's your take on this traditional friendship as well as people-to-people exchanges and cultural exchanges before they're enhanced?
Well, here's another example which you just mentioned, which demonstrates that China and Georgia have a long history of people-to-people contacts and friendship. And of course, we are very proud that we have a special place in Georgia near the Black Sea.
Right.
There's a house of the gentleman who brought tea to Georgia. And of course, we're proud of this history. We're proud of this legacy.
And I heard the food there in Georgia is also very special with some distinctive and rich herbs, right? What about the food here in China? Do you love them? And I heard you love Chinese food.
I'm a big fan of Chinese food.
That's what I heard.
So even in Georgia, we have several Chinese restaurants. And I'm quite a frequent visitor of those restaurants. But we want to see more Chinese restaurants in Georgia.
Right.
And again, I think people-to-people contact and these cultural ties which exist between us will strengthen our bilateral ties, especially now since we are strategic partners. This will add more values to our relationship.
When you go to a Chinese restaurant, what are some of the food that you always order?
Everybody loves Beijing duck, so
Okay,
one of them,
Peking
so.
roast duck. And finally, because you went to the university yesterday and for the unveiling ceremony of a very famous poet in Georgia. So, and you even tried the Chinese calligraphy there. So how was it, and what is your vision for the cultural exchanges between the two countries?
This was another very nice, surprising gesture for me, because for us, our great poet Shota Rustaveli is a very important figure, which teaches us about kindness, about values, wisdom, and friendship, and loyalty, and so on. So I think this is a very symbolic gesture from the Chinese side, which we will not forget.
加里巴什维利有着丰富的从政经历，他曾经担任格鲁吉亚内务部长。2013年，经议会选举，他首次担任格鲁吉亚总理。对于这份使命，他曾经表示，不管是作为部长还是总理，都是为了服务国家。任何职务都是暂时的，只有祖国是永恒的。2021年2月，加里巴什维利再次当选为格鲁吉亚总理。对于格鲁吉亚的未来，他有着自己的见解和思考。
Mr. Prime Minister, in 2015, during your first premiership, you said in an interview that for the peace and stability of the region, the country has completely changed its approach towards your neighbors and have chose to adopt pragmatic, rational, and constructive policies towards them. Given the ever-changing global landscape we face now, how would you characterize the diplomatic approach of Georgia nowadays?
So my government is pro-peace government. We want peace, we want stability, we want prosperity for our people. We could maintain peace and stability in Georgia. The last 10 years. So this is the only uninterrupted, peaceful and stable period. So therefore, we will continue this policy. We will continue this constructive, pragmatic policy, which is aimed at solving our problems by peaceful means. So my vision for Georgia is to bring more prosperity to our people, more development, more progress, rapid modernization and transformation, and Georgia could be turned into a place of peace, stability, and prosperity.
In achieving this vision of prosperity and peace, different countries choose their different own paths, which fits their condition the best, right? For China, it chose its unique path towards modernization. What's your take on China's choice?
I think China made a very rapid change, and the modernization process that is ongoing right now is absolutely very impressive. And again, it comes from President Xi and his policies and through his initiatives, which brings more prosperity to Chinese people. And also this could be inspirational to other countries and other nations as well. So, for example, I was in China first time. I visited China in 2015.
In Dalian.
And yes,
right.
And since then I think every year we see lots of changes, lots of improvements, rapid growth. I think this is fascinating. I think this is very impressive. So I want to commend on that, and congratulations again for everything you have achieved in the last decade, and especially in the last during the leadership of President Xi.
So, Mr. Prime Minister, it was a great honor and pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining us and for sharing with us your analysis and insights on bilateral relations and also the international situation and everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
在采访当中，加里巴什维利总理对“一带一路”倡议和两国自贸协定侃侃而谈，也对格鲁吉亚营商环境如数家珍。他希望在未来两国进一步拓展各领域合作，也期待两国人民续写珍贵的传统友谊。感谢您收看本期的高端访谈，我是邹韵，我们下期再会。